close your eyes now. Let the soft rain begin to fall outside your window, gentle, steady, like 1,000 tiny fingers tapping you into stillness. Let every breath you take become a little slower, a little deeper, as my voice wraps around you like the warmest blanket on the coolest autumn night in New York City. Tonight there is no rush, no hurry, only the quiet rhythm of rain and the whisper of a story that has stood the test of time, a story about hidden letters, secret hopes, and the softest kind of redemption. Feel the weight of the day melting from your shoulders, sinking down through the mattress, disappearing into the floor. You are safe here, you are held, and I am going to tell you everything. Every tiny detail, every scent of old books and fresh coffee, every flicker of autumn light on wet pavement, until your mind is so full of gentle beauty that sleep simply carries you away. Imagine the city softening around you, the sharp edges blurring, taxi horns fading into the distance, replaced by the hush of raindrops on leaves. This is the world of 1998, when the internet still felt like magic, when the sound of a dial-up modem was the most exciting heartbeat in the world. Tonight we are stepping into You've Got Mail, the film Nora Ephron gifted us like a perfectly wrapped parcel tied with crimson ribbon. Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan will meet us there, but softer, slower, closer to your ear than they have ever been before. Every scene will unfold in slow motion, every emotion will linger like the scent of vanilla and paper, every small gesture will brush against your cheek like cashmere. Let the rain grow a little stronger now, steady and comforting, the way it does when you know you don't have to go anywhere. Feel the cool mist drifting in through a half-open window, carrying the smell of wet sidewalks and roasted chestnuts from a faraway street vendor. Somewhere in the Upper West Side, a little bookshop bell is about to ring for the very first time tonight, and we are going to be there when it does. But first, let yourself sink a little deeper, let your arms and legs grow heavy, deliciously heavy, as though warm sand is being poured over them, one gentle handful at a time. You might already know that this film is a remake of a 1940 classic called The Shop Around the Corner. But did you know that Nora Ephron fought to keep the original title, You've Got Mail, even though the studio worried no one would understand it? She knew the phrase would become iconic, and she was right. Every time we hear that gentle electronic voice say those 3 words, something hopeful flutters inside us even now, decades later. Let that flutter settle into a slow, steady glow behind your heart. Have you ever waited for a message that felt like it could change everything? A single email, a text, a letter slipped under your door? Let yourself remember that feeling tonight, not the anxiety, only the sweetness of possibility. Hold it softly, like a firefly cupped in your hands. We are going to follow 2 people who felt exactly that, every single night, without knowing they were writing to each other. The rain is steady against the glass, my voice low and close, almost touching your ear. In a moment we will walk together down a tree-lined street, where golden leaves drift like slow-motion snow. We will smell the rich, inky perfume of old books the second we push open a little green door. We will hear the tiny bell chime, and we will meet Kathleen Kelly for the first time, twirling in her navy coat, cheeks pink from the October wind. But there is no hurry. Let the anticipation be delicious. Let your eyelids grow heavier with every raindrop. You are exactly where you are meant to be. When you are ready, truly ready, we will begin the story properly. Until then, just breathe with the rain. In and out, feeling every muscle soften, every thought loosen its grip, The world can wait. Tonight belongs to whispered letters, to the hush between keystrokes, to the moment someone realizes he has fallen in love with the woman he was supposed to destroy. Tonight belongs to gentle forgiveness and the kind of love that arrives quietly, wearing an old sweater and carrying 2 daisies. Let the last little knot of tension in your shoulders dissolve now. You do not have to hold on to anything. I have the story, I have the rain, I have you. Sleep is circling closer, patient and kind, and very soon it will fold you into the softest dream of bookshops at twilight and secret emails that say, without ever saying it, I see you, I understand you, I am already a little bit in love with you. Just a few more gentle breaths, feel the pillow cradle your head perfectly. Feel the blanket tuck itself around you like someone who loves you is doing it very, very slowly. The rain and I will stay right here, whispering every detail until you are completely, perfectly asleep. The rain settles into a perfect lullaby rhythm now, soft and endless. The way it does when the city itself decides to breathe with you. Let us walk together, step onto the sidewalk of West 83rd Street on a crisp October morning in 1998. The sky the color of wet pearl, the air smelling of damp leaves and warm bagels carried in paper bags. Golden ginkgo leaves drift down so slowly they seem suspended in honey, brushing against your cheek shoulder umbrella with the lightest possible kiss. You can almost taste the season on your tongue, something between roasted chestnuts and the metallic promise of coming winter. Somewhere a taxi door closes with a gentle thunk, and then everything quiets again, leaving only the hush of rain and the tiny bell above a green wooden door that is about to become the center of someone's entire universe. The sign reads "The Shop Around the Corner" in curling gold letters, slightly chipped at the edges the way all beloved things are. Push the door open with me now, very slowly, so the bell gives its sweetest, clearest chime, the one that makes every child in the neighborhood stop and smile without knowing why. The scent that greets you is impossible to describe in one breath. Old paper, vanilla, rose potpourri, fresh coffee from the tiny machine behind the counter, and something faintly like the inside of your grandmother's handbag, comforting, powdery, safe. The light pours in through the front windows in long, slanted bars, catching motes of dust that dance like fireflies frozen in amber. Every shelf is crowded with books leaning affectionately against one another, their spines cracked and softened by thousands of loving hands. And there she is, Kathleen Kelly, turning from the children's corner with an armful of picture books. Navy coat still on because the shop is chilly in the mornings, cheeks flushed rose from the wind, curls escaping her knit beret in soft spirals. She smiles at the bell, at you, at the day itself, and the smile is so radiant it feels like stepping into sunlight after weeks of rain. She twirls once, just because she can, coat flaring like a storybook illustration, and begins to sing under her breath while arranging "Make Way for Ducklings" in the window. Her voice is small and slightly off-key, but it fills the shop with more warmth than the radiator ever could. Kathleen lives above the shop with her boyfriend Frank, a passionate rumpled newspaper columnist who hates technology and loves his typewriter the way other men love sports cars. They eat Chinese takeout on the sofa while he rails against corporate greed, and she listens with the fond half-smile of someone who has heard the speech many times before. She pads around their apartment in thick socks and oversized cardigans, watering African violets and reading manuscripts for the shop late into the night. She believes, with every fiber of her being, that a children's bookshop is a sacred place, that stories can save people, that small can still be mighty. Have you ever loved a place so much it felt like an extension of your own heartbeat? A bedroom, a cafe, a garden corner. Somewhere the world made sense the moment you crossed the threshold? Let yourself feel that ache of belonging tonight, soft and sweet, like pressing on a bruise you secretly because it reminds you you're alive. Across town, in a sleek glass office high above Columbus Circle, Joe Fox is already in a meeting. He wears expensive suits the color of river stones and smiles the easy smile of someone who has never been told no for very long. His family owns Fox Books, a superstore chain about to open its newest, biggest location-only blocks from Kathleen's tiny shop. Joe is charming, quick, a little ruthless the way very rich people sometimes are without noticing it. He believes in progress, in convenience, in giving people what they want even if they don't know they want it yet. He has a girlfriend, Patricia, a high-strung book editor who communicates mostly in frantic cell phone conversations and taxi horns. Their apartment is all sharp angles and stainless steel, beautiful but cold, like living inside a magazine. At night, though, when the city quiets and even the richest men feel suddenly small, Joe sits at his laptop in the dark, the blue glow painting his face ghostly. He logs into an anonymous email account under the name NY152 and waits for a message from Shopgirl. They met months ago in an OVER 30 chat room, back when AOL still sounded like a robot having an asthma attack. They have never exchanged real names, never sent photographs, never even spoken on the phone. Yet somehow, in careful, thoughtful paragraphs, they have told each other everything. How Joe's father is on his fifth wife. How Kathleen's mother left her the shop when cancer took her too young. How both of them secretly hate parties, love Twilight, cry at the same old movies. Their letters are long and meandering, full of tiny confessions and gentle teasing. Every time the computer says, "You've got mail," Joe's heart does a ridiculous little skip. Did you know that the original dial-up sound in the film is authentic 1998 56K modem noise, recorded live because Nora Ephron refused to let them fake it? She wanted us to feel that exact ache of waiting, the screech and hiss, and then the sudden silence before the voice says those magical words. Let yourself remember a time you waited for a message that felt like oxygen. Breathe into that memory now, slowly, gently. It's safe to feel it again. One golden autumn day, the Fox Books Superstore opens with brass bands and balloons and a giant scissors ceremony. Joe stands on the steps in his perfect coat, waving to crowds, while only blocks away Kathleen watches from her window as customers trickle past her shop toward the shiny new palace of discounted bestsellers. She tries to smile, tells her staff it will be fine, but her hands tremble slightly as she arranges the Halloween display. That night, she writes to NY152. Sometimes I wonder if I'm fighting a war I've already lost. Do you ever feel that way? And across the city, Joe reads her words, frowns, types back long into the night without telling her he is the enemy at the gates. Have you ever been so afraid of losing something that you held it tighter and tighter until your fingers hurt? Feel your hands relax now, palms open on blanket. Nothing you love can be taken if you love it softly enough to let it breathe. The first time they meet in person, neither knows who other is. Kathleen walks into Fox Books on a research mission, armed with righteous indignation and a list of questions about how they can sell the shoe books so cheaply. She is wearing a soft brown sweater and her hair is twisted up with a pencil, and Joe, wandering aisles in jeans and a cashmere sweater, sees her struggling to reach a high shelf. He lifts book down for her without thinking, smiles that easy smile, and suddenly they are arguing, passionately, delightfully, about children's literature and the soul of reading. Sparks fly like static electricity on a wool scarf. She calls him arrogant, he calls her sentimental. They part breathless and annoyed and secretly exhilarated. That night they both write to their anonymous pen pals about the infuriating stranger they met, how impossibly rude, how surprisingly handsome or pretty, how they can't stop thinking about argument. The universe chuckles quietly in the dark. Let the rain carry away any leftover tension from your day now. Feel it washing down your arms, your spine, pooling harmlessly on floor and disappearing. Every exhale is a little goodbye to something you no longer need to hold. Autumn deepens. Leaves turn crimson and amber, piling in soft heaps along curb. Kathleen hosts Story Hour every Saturday, sitting cross-legged on a rainbow rug, while 20 small children lean forward, spellbound, as she reads The Velveteen Rabbit, in a voice that trembles just enough to make parents in the back dab their eyes. Joe's superstore booms. Kathleen's sales fall. She lies awake listening to Frank's typewriter clacking out another anti-corporate diatribe and wonders if she is becoming obsolete. One evening she closes the shop early, stands alone among empty aisles, and cries quietly between the shelves of fairy tales. Have you ever stood in a place you love and felt it slipping through your fingers like warm sand? Let that sadness visit tonight, but only as a guest. Watch it sit politely for a moment, then gently show it to door. You are safe. The story is only beginning to turn. The rain has grown even softer now, almost a whisper against the glass, the way secrets are told when the house is finally asleep. Let it brush your temples like cool fingertips, smoothing every last crease from your brow. We are moving deeper into autumn, deeper into the ache and the wonder, where the leaves are no longer merely falling but surrendering themselves entirely to the wind. The city smells of wet wool and chimney smoke, and the faintest trace of cinnamon from someone's pumpkin pie cooling on a windowsill. Every street lamp glows through a halo of mist, turning Manhattan into a watercolor painting that breathes. Kathleen's shop grows quieter each week. The bell above the door rings less often, and when it does, the sound feels almost apologetic, as though the shop itself is sorry for disturbing the hush. She still twirls when no one is looking, but the twirl is smaller now, more private, like a prayer she is afraid to say out loud. She rearranges the window displays every few days, hoping a new arrangement of Goodnight Moon and stuffed rabbits might coax customers back. She lights extra candles so the shop smells of beeswax and vanilla, even when no one is there to notice. At night, she writes longer and longer letters to NY 152, paragraphs that spill over with worry disguised as philosophy. I wonder if it's possible to fight for something so hard that you forget why you loved it in the first place. Across the river of rooftops, Joe reads those letters in his vast bedroom, while Patricia sleeps beside him, curled like a comma around her BlackBerry. He reads them twice, 3 times, feeling an unfamiliar tightness in his chest. He has never told anyone, not even himself, until very recently, that he sometimes stands at the window of the new Fox books and watches the little shop around the corner, the way one watches a candle burn lower. He tells himself it is simple business. He tells himself many things. Have you ever noticed yourself rooting quietly for someone you were supposed to defeat? Let that strange tenderness rise in you now, warm and confusing, like drinking hot chocolate too fast. It is safe to feel two things at once. The heart is larger than we think. One gray November afternoon fate nudges them together again. Kathleen is in the supermarket checkout line clutching a single yellow rose and a box of Twizzlers when the cash register breaks. The line stalls. Joe ends up directly behind her, holding a basket of organic apples and the kind of expensive bottled water that comes from glaciers. They recognize each other instantly. The air crackles. She lifts her chin. He offers that crooked half smile that makes women forgive him for almost everything. They begin to bicker immediately, softly, deliciously, about the merits of independent bookstores versus convenience, about whether children actually need a soul or just a good bargain. People in line around them start listening the way people listen to a jazz duet they didn't expect to love. When the register finally beeps back to life, Joe quietly pays for Kathleen's rose and candy before she can protest. She stares at him, eyes wide, mouth open in a small, perfect O of surprise. He shrugs as if it were nothing, but his ears are pink. Outside on the sidewalk, the wind swirls leaves around their ankles like mischievous cupids. She says thank you, in a voice so small it could fit inside a locket. He says you're welcome in a voice suddenly rough, as though the words scraped his throat on the way out. That night they both write feverishly to their anonymous confidants. Kathleen describes the arrogant, charming man who paid for her Twizzlers, and how strangely gentle his hands looked holding the scanner. Joe describes the proud, infuriating woman with the rose, and how her eyes are the exact color of Central Park after rain. Neither suspects. Yet something has already shifted, like tectonic plates moving a single millimeter that will someday open oceans. Did you know that the famous scene with the Twizzlers and the broken cash register was improvised on the spot? Tom and Meg simply started arguing about candy the way real New Yorkers do, and Nora Ephron loved it so much she kept almost every take. Let yourself smile at that small, sleepy secret. Sometimes the best moments in life are the ones no one scripted. Thanksgiving comes, then the frantic glitter of December. Kathleen hosts a Christmas party in the shop after hours, strings of tiny white lights looped through the shelves like constellations. Children press their noses to the window, watching her read The Nutcracker aloud by candlelight because the electricity flickered out citywide. She wears a red velvet dress and her mother's pearl earrings. And for one evening, the shop feels invincible again. Joe, walking past with his niece and nephew, pauses outside the circle of golden light. He watches Kathleen's hands flutter like birds as she acts out the Mouse King, watches the children's faces shine with pure belief, and something inside him cracks, quietly, the way thin ice cracks before anyone notices the danger. Have you ever stood outside a window and felt you were seeing the best version of someone you thought you knew? Let that ache settle behind your ribs tonight, gentle, bittersweet. It is the feeling of almost understanding something too large for words. Winter hardens. Sales fall so low Kathleen can no longer pay the rent increase. She hosts a going-out-of-business story hour with cupcakes and tears barely held back. Parents hug her in the children's corner. Regular customers leave handwritten notes tucked between pages. You taught my daughter to read. You made the world kinder. She closes the shop for the last time on a night so cold the stars look sharp enough to cut paper. She locks the door, presses her forehead to the cold glass. and whispers goodbye to the place that raised her after her mother left. Snow begins to fall in slow, silent feathers. That same night, Joe sits at his laptop and finally admits to himself what he has known for weeks. Shopgirl is Kathleen Kelly. The realization hits him like warm brandy in an empty stomach, terrifying, exhilarating, inevitable. He stares at the glowing screen until the words blur. He has destroyed the person he loves most in the world, and she doesn't even know it was him. Let the snow in your mind now, soft and weightless, covering every sharp edge of the day. Feel it cool on your cheeks, your closed eyelids. Nothing is unforgivable yet. Nothing is finished. Breathe in the clean, cold scent of possibility. Joe begins to court her without revealing himself. Small, anonymous gestures that feel enormous because they are secret. He sends her favorite flowers, white daisies and pink peonies, with cards typed in the same font they use in their emails. He arranges for a rare first edition of Pride and Prejudice to appear on her doorstep the morning after she mentions loving it when she was 8. He stands across the street watching her face light up through the window of her new tiny apartment and feels something between agony and worship. Meanwhile, in real life, they keep colliding. At a bookstore reading, at a cafe, once even in the same elevator that gets stuck between floors for 20 quiet minutes. Each time the air between them thickens with things unsaid. She starts to look forward to fighting with him. He starts to dread the day she will discover the truth. Have you ever been certain you were protecting someone by hiding who you really are, only to realize the hiding itself was the wound? Let that question drift across the snow in your mind tonight, light as a feather, heavy as truth. The city turns silver and white. Bare branches click together like knitting needles in the wind. Kathleen's heartbreak over the shop begins to heal into something quieter, a scar rather than an open wound. She starts writing a children's book about a brave little shop that refuses to disappear. She walks Brinkley, her golden retriever, through Riverside Park at twilight and feels almost hopeful again. And every night, no matter how late, she still checks her email. NY 152 is the one place she can say everything. She tells him about closing the shop, about feeling like a failure, about how sometimes she dreams she hears the bell ring and wakes up crying. Joe reads every word and answers with careful tenderness, telling her she is braver than anyone he knows, that stories matter more than square footage, that she will rise again like spring. Let the snow keep falling, slower and slower, until the whole world feels padded and silent. Feel your heartbeat slow to match the hush. You are floating now, weightless, cradled between the ending of one chapter and the beginning of another. The snow has turned back into rain tonight, the softest possible April rain, the kind that smells of lilacs and forgiveness even before anything has been forgiven. Let it fall over your shoulders like warm silk, loosening every knot you didn't know you were still carrying. We are in the tenderest part of the story now, the part where everything hurts and everything heals at exactly the same time. The city is waking from winter, tulips pushing through sidewalk cracks, steam curling from manhole covers like sleepy dragons, and two people circling each other the way planets circle before they finally decide to become each other's moon. Joe's secret is a living thing inside his chest now, growing heavier every day. He watches Kathleen from a distance the way astronomers watch comets, with reverence, with terror that the beauty might burn up before he can reach it. He knows the moment of revelation is coming the way sailors once knew a storm was coming. By the ache in old bones, by the sudden stillness of birds. He rehearses 100 versions of the truth in the shower speeches, bedtime apologies, notes slipped under doors, and every version ends with her walking away forever. Yet he cannot stop courting her in both lives at once. By day he is the charming enemy who brings her coffee when she's sick, who carries her groceries up 4 flights, who argues with her about fountain pens versus ballpoint, until they are both laughing helplessly in the middle of Broadway traffic. By night he is NY 152, sending her long letters about courage and second chances, and how sometimes the universe has to break something open so something better can grow. Have you ever loved someone in 2 different ways at the same time, afraid that bringing the 2 loves together would cancel both out? Let that ache visit tonight, but only long enough to be recognized. Then let the rain carry it gently away. One soft spring evening, Kathleen agrees to meet NY 152 at Café Lalo, the one with the twinkle lights and the mismatched teacups and the color of dreams. She is terrified and radiant in a pale green dress the exact shade of new leaves. She sits at a small marble table clutching a single red rose and a copy of Pride and Prejudice with the handkerchief bookmark, the signal they agreed on months ago. The cafe is crowded with laughter and clinking spoons and the smell of almond croissants. Joe arrives early, stands across the street under an awning, watches her through the window. She checks her watch, smooths her hair, smiles nervously at strangers. Every time the door opens, her whole body lifts like a bird about to take flight, then settles again when it isn't him. Joe's heart fractures along every line he didn't know it had. He cannot do it. He cannot walk in there and watch her face fall when she realizes the man she has loved in secret is the same man who took her shop. So he turns away. He leaves her waiting. Later, when she writes to him, voice trembling even in text, "I came. You didn't. I guess some things are too good to be true." He reads the words until they blur. He answers with the only truth he can give yet. "It wasn't possible tonight. Please forgive me. I am the coward I never wanted to be." And then he does the bravest thing he has ever done. He starts showing up in her real life as the man who will earn the right to tell her everything. Did you know that Café Lalo is a real place on West 83rd Street and still has the exact same twinkle lights? People still go there hoping to meet their own NY 152. Let yourself imagine sitting at that marble table someday, rose in hand, heart open. It is never too late for that kind of courage. Spring deepens. Dogwood blossoms drift like pink snow. Kathleen gets the flu, and Joe appears at her door with chicken soup from Zabar's, a stack of old movies, and a willingness to be bossed around. She is feverish and cranky and impossibly beautiful, with her hair in a messy knot and his old Columbia sweatshirt swallowing her whole. He tucks her in, reads aloud from Boy, the Stories of Childhood, until her eyes flutter closed. When she wakes hours later, he is asleep in the armchair, mouth slightly open, one hand still holding the book open on his chest. Something inside her softens so completely she is afraid she will cry. Have you ever realized you were falling in love with someone while watching them sleep? Let that memory, or the wish for it, settle behind your heart tonight like warm honey. Another day he takes her to the farmer's market at Union Square, because she once wrote that the smell of fresh basil makes her believe in God. They wander between stalls, tasting strawberries so sweet they stain their fingers red. He buys her a tiny pot of lavender just because she brushed her face against it and sighed. She buys him a ridiculous tie covered in tiny books because she says it matches his eyes when he laughs. They do not touch, not yet. But the air between them is so charged that strangers smile as they pass. One afternoon they end up on the 79th Street boat basin at twilight. The Hudson is molten gold, sailboats rocking gently like cradles. Kathleen tells him about her mother teaching her to waltz on that very pier when she was 7, humming Moon River off-key. Without a word, Joe slips his hand into hers, pulls her close, and begins to sway. There is no music except the lapping water and distant traffic and their own breathing, but they dance anyway, slow and careful, foreheads almost touching. She whispers, "I feel like I've known you my whole life," and he whispers back, voice cracking, "You have no idea." Let the memory of every almost kiss you've ever had rise gently now. Let it hover in the air in front of you like firefly light. Then let it drift away on the river. You are allowed to feel everything and still be at peace. The night before he plans to tell her the truth, Joe cannot sleep. He walks the city until dawn, past the darkened shell of her old shop, past the cafe where she waited with the rose, past every place they have argued and laughed and almost become real to each other. He ends up on the Brooklyn Bridge as the sun rises, pink and peach and impossibly tender, and he makes a promise to the sky. Tomorrow he will lose her, or he will finally have her, but he will no longer live in the space between. Have you ever stood on the edge of a confession that could either destroy or save everything? Breathe into that moment tonight. Feel the courage it takes to step forward anyway. It is already inside you, sleeping curled like a cat. Let it stretch. The rain is barely a mist now, the gentlest kiss against the window. Your body is heavy, your mind deliciously quiet. We are almost at the moment the whole story has been moving toward, slow and inevitable as seasons changing. Let yourself sink a little deeper into the pillow. Nothing is required of you now except to listen and to rest. The redemption is coming, soft as dawn, certain as spring. The rain has thinned to the softest silver mist now, the kind that makes streetlights glow like lanterns inside clouds. Let it settle on your skin like the finest cashmere, cool and weightless, until even the memory of tension feels far away. We are standing together on a perfect May morning in 1998. The air so lush with lilac and wet earth that every breath feels like drinking spring itself. Somewhere above the treetops, a single bird is practicing the same 3 notes over and over, the way hearts practice hope when they are almost too afraid to feel it. Joe has chosen today. He wakes before the sun, dresses carefully in the softest navy sweater he owns. The one Kathleen once said made him look less like a corporate raider and more like a poet who wandered into the wrong century. He buys 2 bunches of white daisies from the Korean market on the corner because they are her favorite, and because they look like tiny suns wearing their own halos. He walks the entire way to her apartment, 29 blocks, letting the city wake up around him, letting nerves and certainty fight their quiet war inside his chest. By the time he reaches her building, his palms are damp, but his heart is strangely calm, the way the river is calm just before it goes over the falls. Kathleen is already in the park with Brinkley. She wears a pale yellow sundress printed with tiny forget-me-nots and her mother's straw hat with the faded navy ribbon. She is throwing a tennis ball in lazy arcs while Brinkley bounds after it like a golden comet, tongue-lolling, eyes shining with pure dog joy. She looks lighter than she has in months, as though the shop's closing has finally stopped pressing on her lungs and started pressing on her pen instead. She has been writing her children's book every morning before the city wakes, and the pages are filling with brave little shops that refuse to disappear and the kind people who love them. Joe sees her from the path and stops breathing for 3 full seconds. The morning light catches in her curls and turns them into a halo of copper fire. She laughs at something Brinkley does, and the sound floats across the grass and lands directly inside Joe's heart, like a small, soft bird that has finally found its nest. He walks toward her slowly, daisies held behind his back, every step feeling like the last step before a high dive. When Brinkley notices him first and gallops over, tail helicopter wagging, Kathleen turns, shielding her eyes with one hand, and smiles the small puzzled smile of someone who wasn't expecting company but is happy to see this particular face anyway. Have you ever seen someone across a distance and known, with every cell in your body, that the next minutes would change your life forever? Let that knowing settle over you now, gentle and inevitable, like the moment just before a kiss. Joe stops a few feet away. The park is almost empty. Only an old man feeding pigeons and a jogger with headphones far in the distance. He brings the daisies forward slowly, offers them with both hands the way a knight might offer a sword in surrender. Kathleen's eyes widen, then soften, then fill with tears she doesn't bother to hide. "They're perfect," she whispers, burying her face in the cool petals, inhaling the faint sweet scent that always reminds her of childhood summers. When she looks up again, Joe is closer, close enough that she can see the pulse beating fast in his throat. "I need to tell you something," he says, voice low and rough with everything he has been carrying for months. "And after I tell you, I will completely understand if you never want to see me again. But I can't wait one more day to be honest with you." Kathleen tilts her head, smile fading into gentle confusion. "Joe, what?" "I'm NY 152, he says, all in one breath, as though the words have been burning his tongue for weeks. "I'm the person you've been writing to every night. I'm Shopgirl's pen pal. And I'm also the idiot who put you out of business. I didn't know. At first, I swear I didn't know it was you. And when I found out, I was so ashamed I couldn't." His voice cracks. He stops, swallows, starts again. "I fell in love with you twice, Kathleen. Once through words on a screen, and once standing right in front of me arguing about balsamic vinegar. And I am so sorry. I am so sorry." The park holds its breath. Even the bird stops singing. Brinkley sits politely between them, looking from one face to the other as though waiting for the next plot twist. Kathleen stares at him for a long moment that feels like a century. Her face cycles through every emotion: shock, recognition, betrayal, memory, understanding, something softer that might be wonder. Tears spill over and track shining paths down her cheeks, but she doesn't wipe them away. Finally she speaks, voice trembling yet strangely steady. "All those nights I poured my heart out, that was you listening?" Joe nods, miserable and hopeful at once. "And all those times you brought me soup and carried my groceries and danced with me by the river, that was you too?" Another nod. She takes one small step closer. You let me hate you when I needed someone to hate, and you let me love you when I needed someone to love, and you never once tried to defend yourself. She reaches up slowly, almost shyly, and touches his cheek with fingertips that tremble. I wish I could hate you, she whispers. It would be so much easier. Then, softer still. But I don't. I think I've loved you for longer than I even knew your name. Joe's eyes close, as though she has just lifted the heaviest weight in the world from his shoulders. When he opens them again, they are bright, with tears he doesn't bother to hide either. He leans his forehead gently against hers, daisies crushed, forgotten between them, petals drifting to the grass like snow. Did you know that in the final scene was shot on the first take, because both Tom and Meg were actually crying? Nora Ephron said she had never seen two actors fall in love with their characters, and maybe a little with each other, quite so completely. Let yourself feel that same tenderness now, the kind that doesn't need grand gestures, only truth told quietly in morning light. They stay like that for a long time, foreheads touching, breathing each other in, while Brinkley circles them happily, and the city begins its gentle morning hum. When they finally part, Kathleen is smiling through her tears, the kind of smile that comes after a storm when the air is washed clean and everything smells brand new. She takes his hand, threads her fingers through his the way she has wanted to for months, and says, I don't want to miss one more minute of knowing who you really are. They walk the long way home through the park, shoulders brushing, sometimes laughing, sometimes quiet, stopping every so often to kiss softly, carefully, as though they are both afraid the other might vanish if they kiss too hard. The daisies are half wilted from being held too tightly, but neither of them cares. When they reach the corner where her old shop used to be, they pause. The windows are papered over now, waiting for whatever comes next, but Kathleen squeezes his hand and says, It's okay. Stories end so new ones can start. And Joe believes her, because she has always been braver than he is. Have you ever forgiven someone and felt the exact moment your heart grew larger to fit the forgiveness? Let that spaciousness open inside you tonight, wide and warm and safe. There is room for every complicated, beautiful thing. The rain has stopped completely now. Somewhere above the buildings, the sun is breaking through in long golden bars. Sleep is very close, circling like a friendly cat. You have carried this final gift coming, the softest, sweetest ending two people who began as enemies could ever be given. The mist has lifted entirely now, leaving only the faintest shimmer on the window pane, the way the world looks after tears have dried, but the heart is still luminous. Let the quiet settle over you like the softest down comforter, the kind your grandmother tucked under your chin when you were small and the night felt too big. Every muscle in your body has permission to dissolve completely. Every thought has permission to drift away on the last faint scent of lilacs that still lingers in the air. You have traveled the entire gentle arc with them, from the first shy keystrokes in the dark, through the ache of loss, through the terror and mercy of truth, all the way to this perfect spring morning, where forgiveness tastes like daisies and second chances. Joe and Kathleen walk the rest of the way to her apartment hand in hand, fingers laced so tightly it is impossible to tell whose pulse is whose. Brinkley trots ahead, occasionally looking back as though to make sure his two favorite humans are still behaving themselves. When they reach her door, she pauses on the top step, turns to him with that small, shy smile that always undoes him completely, and says, Would you like to come up for coffee? I mean, real coffee this time, not the metaphorical kind we've been drinking for months. Joe laughs, the sound low and relieved and a little disbelieving, and follows her up the narrow stairs that smell faintly of lemon polish and old books. Inside, sunlight pours through the kitchen window and paints everything gold. The apartment is small and cluttered in the most comforting way. Stacks of manuscripts on the table, African violets blooming on every sill, a battered kettle beginning its soft morning song. Kathleen sets the wilted daisies in a mason jar of water anyway, arranging the broken stems with the same tenderness she once arranged picture books in the shop window. Joe watches her from the doorway, leaning against the frame because his knees feel suddenly unreliable. She looks over her shoulder and catches him staring. "What?" she asks, cheeks pink. "You," he answers simply. "Just you." They drink coffee from mismatched mugs. His says, "World's okayest uncle." Hers has a faded illustration of Madeline, and talk about everything and nothing. She tells him about the children's book she is writing, how the brave little shop now has a friend, a big shop with kind eyes who learns to make room for small magic. He tells her about the nights he sat in the dark reading her letters and crying because he didn't know how to fix what he had broken. They cry a little again, quietly, comfortably. The way people cry when they have finally reached the safe place after a very long journey. Have you ever sat across a kitchen table from someone and felt every past version of yourself exhale at once? Let that exhale happen now, long and slow and complete. There is nothing left to hold. Later they walk Brinkley again, this time through Riverside Park at twilight. The sky is the color of peach ice cream melting into violet. Children chase fireflies near the river while their parents linger on benches pretending not to watch two grown-ups holding hands like teenagers. Joe stops beneath an ancient oak and pulls a small velvet box from his pocket. Inside is not a ring, not yet, but her mother's pearl earrings. The ones she wore the night the shop closed. The ones she thought were lost forever when she moved. "I found them in the children's corner," he says softly. "They were tucked inside a copy of Betsy Tacy like a secret." Kathleen's breath catches. She lets him fasten them in her ears with fingers that tremble only slightly, and when she turns her face up to his, the pearls glow warm against her skin like tiny captured moons. "Did you know that those earrings were actually belonged to Meg Ryan's own mother? Nora let her wear them because she said Kathleen should carry something real from someone who loved her. Let yourself feel held by something that real tonight, something passed down through gentle hands." Summer arrives in a burst of green and birdsong. Kathleen's book is accepted for publication. Joe clears an entire floor of the flagship Fox Books for independent storytellers and small presses, and calls it The Corner. They host joint story hours on Saturdays. Kathleen in her twirling skirt reading aloud. Joe in rolled-up sleeves building block castles with toddlers who climb him like a jungle gym. The bell above the new door is the original bell from the shop around the corner, polished until it shines like a promise. One August evening, they return to the 79th Street Boat Basin, where they once danced without music. This time there is music. A street violinist playing Somewhere Over the Rainbow for tips. And this time they dance slowly, properly, her cheek against his heartbeat, his hand spread warm across the small of her back. When the song ends, he dips her just enough to make her laugh, then pulls her upright and says, very quietly, "Marry me, Kathleen Kelly." Not because the story needs an ending, but because I cannot imagine any other beginning from this moment on. She answers by kissing him so thoroughly that the violinist misses a note, and several passers-by applaud. Have you ever been proposed to, or proposed, beneath a sky that felt personally invested in your happiness? Borrow their sky tonight. Let it hold you the way Joe is holding Kathleen, certain and gentle and forever. Years later, though we don't need years, only this soft endless now, there is a wedding in the garden behind the shop that once was. Twinkle lights in the trees, children running between tables with sparklers, Frank giving a toast about the typewriter finally learned to love the internet, Patricia sending a hilarious telegram from Paris. Kathleen walks down an aisle of scattered book pages wearing her mother's rebuilt dress and the pearls, carrying not a bouquet but a single worn copy of Pride and Prejudice, with the handkerchief bookmark still inside. Joe waits for her beneath an arch of white roses, eyes shining suspiciously bright. When the officiant says you may kiss the bride, he does so slowly, reverently, as though sealing every email they ever wrote with his lips. And somewhere, in the quiet after the music stops and the guests have gone home and the candles are burning low, they dance one last time to no music at all, swaying in the empty garden while fireflies blink around them like tiny applause. Kathleen whispers against his neck, "I knew it was you." And Joe whispers back, "I hoped with every stupid, hopeful bone in my body that you would." Let their happiness cover you now, warm and weightless, the way moonlight covers everything it touches. Let it seep through your skin and pool behind your eyes until there is nothing left but the gentlest dark. The story is finished, yet it will never finish. It will live in every bookstore bell that rings, in every "you've got mail" that still makes someone's heart skip, in every person who chooses kindness over being right. Have you ever felt a story tuck you in the way a parent tucks in a child, carefully, completely, with love that doesn't need words anymore? This one is doing it now. Feel the blanket of it smooth across your shoulders. Feel the pillow rise to meet the exact curve of your head. Feel your breath slow to the rhythm of a world that has decided, just for tonight, to be only gentle. The rain has long since stopped. The lilacs have faded into memory. All that remains is the hush of two people who found each other twice, and the soft, certain knowledge that you are loved exactly as you are, secrets and sorrows and all. Sleep now, dear heart. The book is closed, the screen is dark, the daisies are still blooming somewhere in the quiet. Dream of twinkle lights and old bells, and the sound of someone saying your name like a promise. Dream of email arriving in the softest hour saying only, "I see you. I understand you. I am already always a little bit in love with you." Good night. Good night. Good night.